Best Worst Thing. I'm your host, Joshua Lewa. I want to take a moment just to say thank you to all the listeners who followed us from really around the world. We've had listeners from the United States, Europe, Asia, and Africa. In particular, Vietnam, France, Canada, Pakistan, Japan, Sweden, Nigeria, the UK, Cameroon, Germany, Bangladesh, Nepal, India. I wanted to let you know that I see you and I hear you, and I'm just glad that you're getting something out of this. I hope that you continue to listen to our show as we head towards season 2, which will kick off in November. For now, we're going to have 2 best of episodes. We're going to have just some of the clips from season 1 where we get to hear from some of our guests as they drop some amazing jewels of hope and inspiration. And then again, tune in for season 2, which comes out in November. So 2 best of episodes, and we'll go to season 2. I'd love to hear from those folks who are following us around the United States, of course. We have people in Arizona, California, New York, and so many other places. I'm just super touched and thrilled that you all are tuning in. So email us on the website, jw@bestworstthingpodcast.com, and I'd love to stay in touch with you. Until then, enjoy the episode. So yeah, it's just putting yourself out there constantly. It's pretty amazing. It's putting you some really interesting positions.
Well, I learned that from my uncle, to be honest with you. My uncle, who lived in Swaziland, he's a doctor, and he's still in Swaziland. And one of the things I will never forget him saying, and I'll never forget, he actually took me and my brother Kuru to, there was to be a burrito, not a taco, kind of like a Mexican spot. It was an Old Capitol Mall, right? And it was upstairs, and he was visiting, and we're sitting there eating like it was like burritos, but it was a sit down place. And I'll never forget that he said that if you want to get things done, you have to know how to get along with people and create a spirit of cooperation or collaboration. And something I've learned from you at that time is that, and by the way, you're the one who recruited me into Phi Beta Sigma.
Yep.
Like literally me and my brother. And then I was like, I don't know. And you were like, oh yeah. And you were giving me like, yo, Nabi Azikiwe was a Sigma. Oh, Kwame Nkrumah was a Sigma. I was like, oh, snap, word. But it's that ability to connect with people or feel what they relate to and keep on those commonalities, right? Not dwell on the differences. When you basically find that overlap where there's commonalities, and then you compound it, and then they segue into other things. You can't be someone's friend. You become someone's friend. You know what I'm saying? So even in fraternity, we learn that you can't just be a Sigma. You have to become one. There's a whole way of looking at things. It's the same thing when you go to a company. Is the culture of the company. You get onboarded. They tell you the purpose or the mission of the company, and then you have something in common with basically your colleagues, and that's that mission or that goal. And so what my uncle said was, like, you want to get things done, you have to be able to learn how to work with people, and all kinds of people, different kinds of personalities, interests, conflicting interests sometimes. Maybe people don't even like each other. But I remember him sitting and telling us about, like, if you meet someone, don't ask them for something right away, because then the guards are going to come up like, okay, all right. See what I'm saying? You just change the dynamic. I'll never forget all these things. And I used to see him in Swaziland. I used to see him, and I couldn't walk a block with my uncle in Swaziland. It's a small little country in southern Africa. And when I grew up in Zimbabwe, we used to go visit, and you can't go walk a block because everyone's saying, hi, Dr. Rukundo, hi. And you're like, yo, uncle, we have to get to the restaurant. Like, it's just right there. And so I realized something. I was like, okay, all these books and all that stuff I'm going to learn, but it's people that are going to get anything done or be able to work together. I can't do anything by myself, you know? And we talked about the support system as an intern, like that was just to stay alive, like literally, like, you know, and morale, because you're going to go through stuff. And if you don't have allies or people, soundboards, people you can talk to, you don't have mentors, people who you can get advice so you don't reinvent the wheel, or sponsors, people who can help lend a hand or put in a good word and champion you and or recommend you. Like, there's a difference between mentor and sponsor. People, you know, you don't. So if you have all of that, these are all people. Sorry about that. Those are all people. These are all people. So I'm not putting myself out there just to be out there. It's to stay connected with people who are important to me, and I'm important to them for whatever reason, and to keep that energy, you know what I'm saying, alive. And if somebody is like shady or you know, I don't want anything to do with that person, and I don't even have to tell them. I don't even have to announce it. I just keep moving. As simple as that, right? But when someone means something, you know, that connection is important, and you know, that's that.
My guess is you've been able to apply that same concept in the work that you've done.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you just named two of what I think are the most important leadership skills to have, is perspective taking and empathy, and then vision, honestly, and motivating others. So you just named a whole bunch of leadership skills in what you just talked about. And so that empathy piece is huge, huge, huge. And so whether we're willing to and I'm trained in the Dare to Lead work from Brene Brown. And so I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the daring leadership versus the armored leadership, and the empathy work that shows up, that needs to show up in our work. But really being able to understand, being willing to take on other people's perspectives, being willing to assume that people are doing the best they can with what they have in the moment. That's generosity. And then asking, what do you see? What is your perspective? What is your story on this? You know, and giving them a real space and building that trust for them to share authentically. I think those are huge pieces that that I think companies are starting to recognize, that when people feel safe, and there's some research out there too that psychological safety is one of the number one indicators of productivity in teams. And so when you can build that trust through empathy, through perspective taking, through holding a space for them to share their real selves, then that's where you really meet people where they are. I think, the first step of authenticity is really just being able to become whole within yourself. And I don't think many of us, particularly I know those of us who grow up in our survival mode, we don't have the luxury of, getting to spend that time with ourselves. But we can have opportunities to do that if we seek those out. And ultimately, I love this saying, I don't know where it comes from, but we are not at fault for our pasts, but we are responsible for our healing now where we are. And so when we can take some time and intentionally get to know ourselves within that, and then we're able to be honest with others. So your example of not wanting to go eat if you don't feel like it, like that's something I've struggled with, for sure. And that's a great example of, you're able to recognize, one, that you don't want to go eat right then for whatever reason, and then that's okay. And that you value yourself enough to be honest with other people, and people who value honesty, I think will have respect for that. The other thing I want to say about authenticity is that, being unapologetic and what that looks like. And so in leadership, we talk about overuse and underuse, like unskilled versus skilled versus overusing skills, right? So we can absolutely do any of these things, too much or too little. And and when we come out and like, this is who I am and everybody else just has to deal with it, if it hurts other people, that's using it too much, right? So that's the overuse side. The unused side is the dishonesty with yourself, and then, not sharing that with others, or being afraid to share who you are with others because of what they might think. But really, when it comes down to authenticity and my experience, my story is out there. It is on the internet. It is, you can Google me and have speeches and YouTubes about all of the worst things, right? But I consciously made that decision early in my advocacy career, around the time I decided to not be a Latin professor, that my story, if it could serve a purpose for this world, then I wanted it out there and people can take it as they want. And I know for a fact that I have not gotten certain jobs because I've done that, because there's still a lot of stigma around adversity, around mental health, around recovery, around trauma, just frankly. And so I know that, and I knew that going in, that because I was being authentic at that level, and I don't recommend that for everyone, honestly. You've got to really think strategically around what you're sharing, who you're sharing it with, what impact that might have down the road. People like lawyers, doctors, if they know that you have a mental health condition, you can actually be prevented from getting your professional certification. And so things like that, you've really got to consider. But for myself, I have just come to terms with early on, and I'm really thankful that I did, that, if somebody doesn't hold the same values that I do around mental health and around healing and around recovery, then it's probably not going to be a good fit for me working in that place anyway. And so, yes, there's stigma. Yes, there's strategic sharing. Yes, there's the way in which you talk about yourself. And that's really important when it comes to authenticity. But I think just owning, knowing first yourself and then owning yourself and your story, I think is what really can allow you to live free. And that's really what I think authenticity is.
Got to get rid of that, man. Like that negative stuff. And I've been, negative for a long time. You know what I mean? And I've tried to shake that as much as I could. And I struggle with anxiety, and sometimes anxiety could lead to depression. I've been depressed at grip, throughout the years. But knowing yourself and like shaking it off is, half the battle. You know what I mean? Just to even like get in front of the computer and work on stuff like, oh no, and then you start tripping out about things and just shaking it off and battling it. It's just there's that battle there before anything else begins for me. In the morning, how's it going to be today? Oh, okay, I'm all right. You know what I mean? Like, I'm alive. Okay, yeah. Because then you start just making up stuff in your mind and start putting all these scenarios that just will never pan out to anything except some kind of stupid worry that you just don't need to be incorporating into your daily operation. There's another Gang Starr reference for you. But DJ Premier is my hero, I say. But yeah.
I connect with anxiety and dealing with bouts of depression. And I think, again, sometimes people see you from the outside. It looks so good because of the things you've been able to do in your career. Yep. But they don't know the internal struggles. I love when people come out and say, like, look, I deal with that anxiety, the stress, the panic, the self-doubt. And somehow there's some tools that, I utilize, whether it's just starting the day and being like, we're going to figure out the day and make it work. And that's amazing. Or having good people behind you. I think those are really good points, and that's good for people to listen to and understand.
Good push. Anxiety is no joke, and depression is no joke, and mental health is no joke. I'm not gonna, I don't want to sit up here and parade like how much of no joke that it is, but it's just it's tough. It makes stuff really hard, and you have to just believe that it's going to be okay at some point. Whether it be in God, faith in God, go to church, do whatever you got to do. You know what I mean? Like, whatever gets you by. I'm a firm believer in that. You know what I mean? Like, obviously some people, like I said, just go to church. Other people just drink. I did struggle with alcohol for a long time. I can admit that. I haven't drank in a while, but, alcohol is not going to solve anything except make it more confusing. Sure, some stuff might be fun in between, but at the end of the day, that's not the advice I give. To sit
that's
there
been my experience.
Hey man, I live in Long Beach. There's a bar on every corner. It goes bar, church, bar, like on one street. Like, it's like, why is it set up like that? You know what I mean? It's like, but,
do your sinning and do your repenting in the same block? Man.
Yeah, right next door. Just right. But for the most part, I've had really good people around me, good friends like yourself. Even we don't live next to each other, but I can call you up anytime, shoot the shit for like an hour, and feel better about things that are happening. And and I'm grateful for all of that stuff, dude. Because without like a support system, you don't have anything. You can't do it alone. And not just like doing music or doing whatever. I'm just even doing life. Like, you know, it's just, you know what's up. It's just, you need to have good people around you.
Because of Strange Donuts, I knew the people from World's Fair. Because of World's Fair, I got this far, you know? And it's like, to go from this kid that can't read to like maybe one of the biggest landowners in Missouri, right? Like, what? You know? And I still like, people think I'm lying, you know, but I swear to God, man, I know you know this because you know me and we're friends, but like, I don't think I'm anybody special. And I think like my real message is like, hey man, don't buy into this crap that like there's some kind of caste system. You know what I mean? Like, I really do think it's, you know, people are definitely at different, you know, starting points, you know, but you work hard, be good. And it might not happen in your lifetime. This is something that I think about. And I know I'm just kind of running right now, dude, and you'd stop me, ask me questions, but like, I think about some of the people, you know, where I grew up and, you know, single mom, few kids, working her ass off. And like, I feel, I see people like try to represent that woman, you know what I mean? And like, you know, she needs $30 an hour and she needs one job and whatever. And it makes me think about, I'm like, I've really settled into this position where I'm like, maybe all my hard work isn't about me, you know? Maybe it's not my lifetime. Ooh, I get like emotional. Think about it, dude. That like, maybe I'm not the dude. Maybe I'm just meant to work my ass off so that my kids receive that benefit, you know? Maybe that woman that's like, you know, moved to a place that she can't afford and she's working 3 jobs so her kids can get a better education. You know what? Maybe you're not going to get a break, you know, maybe you're not going to get a vacation. Maybe you're not going to get a new car, but maybe that's the sacrifice. And I think that like, I've thought for a while now, like, you know what, like, this isn't about me. This isn't about Jason getting ahead and having stuff. How can I best serve, you know, the people around me with the assets that I have? And I don't know, that's it. I have like at the same time that I'm like, you know, I have all this stuff and on paper I'm a millionaire, right? I don't talk about that a lot, but on paper I'm a millionaire. Strange Donuts last year, I made $9,000. Okay. Why? Because I'm like, pump it back in, you know, pay people that work for me. You know, the lowest paid employee made way more money than I did, but I have like a 50-year vision of this, you know?
Yes.
And so I get like, we were talking like, man, on a daily basis, there's these knocks, you know, like, man, I suck today, you know? But if I kind of zoom back and I'm like, okay, will this matter in 50 years? No. Okay, is there a problem that can affect me 50 years from now that I have to take care of right now? Yeah. And it makes it easier to just kind of like stomach it, take lumps, and like look above that. Like, I have a 2004 Honda Odyssey that's like beat, you know, like, and I'm like, you know what, dude, that's fine. It runs. And in a few years, it might be a Porsche. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right. I'm interested. I'd feel bad if I pulled up in a Porsche right now and my employee had the 04 Odyssey, you know? Mm-hmm. So and that's led to some crazy stuff where like we have less than 2% turnover in all my companies.
Wow. That's amazing right there.
Right. So I don't know, you do good for people with no expect of return, try to add as much value to their lives as you can. And then, I don't know, great things keep happening to me and for me. And I'm nobody special.
to break it down, you have to know who you are behind like what the world wants you to be. And that's easier said than done. So like, let's break things down. Like, let's journal and let's give you some journaling prompts. Let's meditate. Let's use oracle cards, and do some breath work and kind of self-reflect. Let's go on outdoor walks in nature and figure out who you are and what you truly want. And that's where happiness is. I've listened to so many podcasts of like these people who have like these billionaires who have had these like crashes where they've lost everything. And after they had lost everything, they had to like rebuild themselves. And that's when they learned like happiness does not come from money. It will never bring you happiness. It will bring you freedom. It will bring you things that will make you happy, but that won't like physically bring you internal happiness. And, you know, the most beautiful body in the world. Like I've been in fitness magazines on billboards in China, and I've got my pro card, and, you know, I've built an awesome business that I'm head over heels with. What really makes you happy is knowing who you are and showing up for yourself. And I feel like that was like my moment with like the billionaires where they lost everything, was kind of like where I walked away from competing. I had to rebuild myself. I will say like I got bullied a lot in high school. And I would say like a lot of like me wanting to help women definitely comes from that hurt girl in, you know, high school. And I'm not sure if I answered your question correctly, if you wanted more like tactical things.
No, I think that's it. I think I want to see the foundation. Absolutely.
Yeah, but it truly comes from like, I feel like my soul, like I am in love with my business. I don't do it. Like they always say, like, when I was jogging this morning, I was thinking about this podcast, and I have this like quote in my head of one of my friends was like telling me to like structure my business like this. Cause like, you know, somebody who made like a lot of money like this, and he's like, I was like, but that's not aligned with my vision. Like, I'm not doing that. And he was like, you do what makes you the most money. And well, I think that could be realistic for some people. Like that's a fast track to burnout.
Yeah.
And so I can show up for my clients because I am obsessed with what I do. And so if I'm obsessed with what I do and I show up for them, like, and go above and beyond, they're going to refer people and they're going to be happy. And they're going to, in 3 years, when they want a little more accountability after working with me, they're going to reach back out. If they had a baby, they're going to reach back out, you know, kind of thing.
And things happen for a reason. So, you know, one of my saving graces in this business, because it can be very cutthroat, you have so many people out here, so many talented people out here trying to make it, and very few get these prime opportunities. And like I said, that is my saving grace. That mentality of what's for you is for you. You know, if I go into an audition and I did an amazing job and it's a role that I would be like, oh my gosh, I would love this role, but I didn't get it. It wasn't for me. And that gives me peace. And I don't look at it like rejection. I don't look at it like I got to know. It just wasn't mine. You know, so then maybe my amazing role is manifesting itself in the universe. But I'm also a very, very firm believer in you can't fight or force things. You have to flow. And I think that that's what you're talking about. Like I set this goal and it came and it didn't get it, you know, because if we force something or we try to fight, it's not gonna be right. You just have to flow. Like you said, the universe, you have to just like let go and go, okay, this is not under my control. Right? I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to take my steps to that goal. I'm going to be working it because there's all these little victories on the way there. Right? And like you said, you look up and all of a sudden maybe it happened. Not when you wanted it to happen, but it did happen. But you also gained all this other information. You learned about yourself. You went through struggles, but you came out, you know what I'm saying? You grew from that. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that those are the biggest things that push me, that keep me afloat. I mean, I do have moments and I'm an optimist. So I'm the whole glass is half full, and this and that. But, there's moments that you're human and you have your woe is me moments. I have those where I'm kind of like pitying myself and I'm all like, and then when I'm in those moments, I get frustrated with myself. And I'm like, really, D, like really, this is what you always talk about. Like, but it's okay to be human and have those moments and recognize it. It's okay to sit in it for a little bit. It's like, all right, I'm gonna sit here for a second. I'm gonna get out my little pity party and my little woe is me, and then I'm gonna keep it moving, because it's okay to feel that way, right? Mm-hmm. You have to honor where you are, and like, I don't know, I guess that's my biggest thing is like that, those types of things bring me peace. I mean, a little story that not a lot of people know is just in November, I had decided to step away from acting because for 2 years I had hardly worked. And that's, once again, this business. I was really close to getting several really big roles, getting some shows, and I didn't get it. So I was doing the work, but I can't control who they choose, and I can't control who they're going to bring in the room, right? And it was hard. And it was because financially it was hard. And then you hit a certain age and you're like, I just want to travel and I want to live and and out here it's too hard to own anything because everything's expensive. I want to own a house. Like what I'm paying for rent right now, I could own like acres back in Iowa. Okay. I could be having a mansion. I could probably own a town. Okay. But there's things that I want to experience, in this life, and it's just really hard. And so I was going through a really big internal struggle with that because I wasn't good inside. You know what I'm saying? And it causes stress in other ways, and affects your relationships, affects just everything. And I think going into this field of acting, I knew since I had never planned on being an actor, and then I became an actor, I knew that paths change. And I knew coming in that 5-10 years from when I started, I may not be acting because I never planned on being an actor. Right. So I kind of already knew that. And so I was at a place where acting wasn't my end all be all. I enjoy it. I still put in the work, but there's other strengths and other gifts that I have. I'm a writer. I've always been a writer. I thought I was going to go into journalism and those types of things. And then that changed. But I want to direct, and there's other things that excite me. And then I was like, but with acting, I wasn't having fun anymore, and it was like, what's the point? I don't want to do it just to do it. And like I said, if I'm not good in here, I'm not going to be good, out there. So I actually sat down with my agents, with my managers, and I told them I have to step away. I wasn't quitting, but I had to break away because I kind of I felt like I had an artistic block as well. There was just stuff wasn't as raw, and it was just like, I just needed to get healed in here. Mm-hmm. And I'm very fortunate that I have an amazing team that is very supportive. And they said, we love you and take all the time you need. And I was like, I'm going to cut my hair because I was having hair issues. I'm cutting it off. And they're like, okay, it's fine. And I got a whole bunch of white hair anyways. And that was already a thing. I'm like, I'm not coloring my hair no more because I can't play 20 anyways. I can't hardly play my true age. Like, it's fine, because this business is funny because they're like, oh, if they see white hair, they're going to think, and I'm like, whatever. There's, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to age gracefully. I don't want this business to dictate that you have to be a stick or you have to, whatever. So, I made that decision and I had peace with it. I was at peace with my decision, because I needed to. And it's funny because a month later, we had decided collectively that I could pass on anything. Like they would send me maybe auditions, like really focus on big roles. And if I wanted to pass, I could, no questions asked, which you don't get that freedom a lot as an actor with your reps. Usually they're like, oh, you don't want to go out? Okay, we're not going to be sending you out. But they gave me that. So that took that burden off of me, right? And so an audition came through. And the only reason I went in was because I loved the casting directors. And I hadn't seen them in 3 years. Okay. And I said, I'm only going in because I love them. And then lo and behold, I booked it. And then that took me to New Orleans. And that's the biggest role I've had yet. Yeah. Right when I said, I'm taking a break, and hardly anything for 2 years. And I was like, but once again, try not to fight or force anything. You have to flow. I honored where I was. I acknowledged where I was. I was at peace with where I was. And I just let go. And then all of a sudden the universe was like, oh, I'm sorry. No, you're not taking a break. Here, I'm going to give you this. You know what I'm saying? So it's just funny how that can happen.
Thank you for listening to the Best Worst Thing podcast. I'm your host, Josh Walewa. Music is produced by Josh One. You can follow him at Boomnote on Instagram and Twitter, and Josh One on Spotify. Our episodes are edited by Cool Jets Audio and Visual. You can follow them at CoolJetsAV on Instagram. Our marketing is designed by Francesca Daniels. You can find her at FrankandKitty24 on Instagram. And our overall design is by Inspired Design with Ryan Daniels. You can find them at getinspired.design on Instagram. Thank you for listening to The Best Worst Thing.